The companies were very naive, and the management and the bands really hadn't done any videos, so there was very little brief. It was pretty much a blank page. I got a call from the management saying, oh, by the way, Michael Jackson wants to dance and should dance he's a great dancer during some of this. And I said, well, you know, of course. So I got a handheld camera in front of him, and we played the chorus, and he just was amazing. And he just danced out his way along these stones that lit up, and this poor electrician was trying to keep up with the lights that came on. I could see through that lens that here was a phenomenon that was going to be unleashed on the world.
People wondered if he would be able to follow up the success of Off the Wall. No black performer had sold that many records domestically. Now people don't even remember that Off the Wall was as successful as it was because Thriller just blew the doors off of everything.
Everybody waited for the Thriller video. They trailed the Thriller video for months before you saw it. I mean, and everybody knew exactly what time on earth we were all going to watch that. Thriller went for the jugular. There was no question. It was like, bang!
Cause it's a starlight night. That's what it was originally, and I watched it unfold where Quincy and Michael were in the room, and there was the feeling that he needed something a little more ambitious.
I wasn't that scared. You were scared.
Quincy and Michael started feeding, you know, about, you know, what would it be if it was like a thriller, like a scary movie? And what, you know, we could get Vincent Price. Boddicker, do you have a wolf sound? And I put up a woo!
It's close to me.
Running for around 15 minutes, and with a budget of a rumoured $1 million of Jackson's own money, Thriller was the first to take the medium seriously. Taking the form of a short film rather than a video, it changed the whole approach of the pop industry. Michael Jackson hired horror specialist John Landis, making him the first film director to work on such a project.
We'll just try it once more.
Easy for you.
Very easy. Watch this. Go ahead.
The making of Thriller became the biggest selling home video of all time. The album won 7 Grammy Awards and spent the entire year in the top 10, with 37 weeks at #1.
I don't think anything will ever beat it. I think, you know, you're looking at an album that will stand in perpetuity as the greatest selling album of all time.
To date, Thriller has sold over 60 million copies worldwide, making it by far the biggest selling album ever.
Nobody ever gives him the credit he deserves. He was a phenomenon. None of us are ever going to achieve those sales. He was the only one that could. He did it. He became the king of pop.
Jackson had become the biggest recording artist of all time. His next aim, to become the most spectacular touring artist.
It worked. Somehow he pulled it off, and it was the most amazing ending to a show I have ever seen.
In 1983, as Michael Jackson flew high on the success of Thriller, 47 million Americans tuned in to see his first ever on-stage solo performance of Billie Jean at a concert celebrating 25 years of Motown. Now his popularity was about to go into orbit.
I probably remember that moment to the day I die. The place was full of, ex-Motown stars, and they just went balmy when he did that backwards walk. I mean, it was just a magical moment in time.
It became the seminal moment of his television career. That night, he crossed over into a whole new audience.
The moonwalk was a dance that the kids were doing on the streets. And Michael came along later, and he had a guy by the name of Jeffrey Daniels to teach him to do the moonwalk. And Jeffrey taught him to do the moonwalk, and he was good at it. And when he did it, everybody saw it and just thought this was the most wonderful thing they had ever seen, not really knowing it was a dance that was already out there.
The backslide is actually supposed to be like if you were to be walking forward and suddenly you're on an escalator, and as you're walking forward, this escalator is now pulling you backwards as you're continuing to walk forward. That's the illusion of the backslide. And the moonwalk is that you're actually walking, but the ground is pulling you back. And if you can do it with that illusion, then you're doing it more or less looking like you're pulling yourself back, like your legs are tugging you back. It's not supposed to look that way.
From now on, Michael Jackson would be almost as well known for his stage persona as for his singing.
I remember I saw him in Japan during the history tour. I mean, he shot up from the bottom of the stage and landed on the stage and just stood there. And people are crying and screaming, and he hasn't even moved yet. He hasn't even moved, and they're crying and screaming. He reaches up for his sunglasses, and the screen goes up to another pitch. He slowly takes his glasses off. The screen goes to a higher pitch. He tucks them away and stands for a while longer. By the time the music starts, the audience is pretty much exhausted, and he hasn't even done nothing yet.
He was just unbelievable as a performer. You could look up to the last row in the stadium and see people standing up and screaming and waving, and you just knew he was connecting in a way that you just don't see in entertainment. And but when you're talking up to 70,000 people in a stadium and you're communicating one-on-one, and that person in the stadium believes that Michael is talking to him or to her, not to just this mass, That's where the magic comes with Michael Jackson.